Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some new products from Pinkfresh Studios. I am using the Butterfly Garden. This is a stamps, stencils, and die, so those are all available. And then I'm also using this cute little terrarium set. So basically, so you can build your little things inside of it. And that's how we, terrarium. It's terrarium. I knew I was saying it wrong. What's wrong with my brain? Moving on. It's a terrarium. Right? Oh no. We're moving on with it because I don't have time to look it up. So it's a terrarium. Terrarium. There's no N in there after the A, Kelly. Oh my gosh, we have to move on. Okay. So here what I'm doing is I'm going to be using the stencils today, and so I'm stamping two of these. This is the cute little butterfly garden. And the thing that Pinkfresh does, and they do it super well, especially with their washi sets, is the dies are going to cut all of these pieces out as individual pieces. And then you can turn them into whatever you want. You can turn them into a wreath. You could turn them into a heart. You could turn them into a frame. You could turn them into literally anything that you want. Which I think is pretty awesome because I don't like die cutting. So for me, I can stamp them all in one go. I can die cut them out all in one go. And then I just put them in a little cuppy and I just use what I want. I love it. So anywho, I stamped two of these and I am going to use the full stencil set on one of them and I am going to use parts of the stencil set on the other. Let me explain that. But before I do, let's talk about the Blog Hop. So this is part of their Blog Hop. They are generously giving away, I think it's 10 $25 gift cards. So I'll link that below if you're watching on YouTube, so that you can go over and hop along to increase your chances to win. While you're there, you may want to swing over. I'm also part of the Hero Arts Summer Catalog Blog Hop today, and they also have giveaways. And you know how I am, how I feel about giveaways. Like, I do it. Just put yourself in the mix. So I started with the, with just like a medium green. And then for some of them, I'm just going in and adding a little bit of yellow over top because I like color variation. But the whole point of me doing this, two different ways is I want to create a lot of dimension in my card without creating a lot of bulk. So I liberally use dimensional adhesive. I love a good foam tape moment, but they're really challenging to mail. And so if I can come up with a way that's going to give me dimension without the need for foam tape and having to make sure that if it gets mailed, it has to be machinable and all of that, then I'm going to do it. And this is a really great way. There's a couple of little tips I'm going to share along the way that doesn't necessarily apply to just what did we decide it was? Terrarium? I think that's what we decided it was. It's just that die, but it works really well in this instance. So there's some, obviously it's a butterfly garden, so there's some butterflies. I chose to do purple. And then purple's natural complement is yellow, so that's what I went with for the flowers. Plus, they kind of remind me of like little buttercups. So I went in and did just a base layer of yellow. I am also going to do a little bit of shading here. Not that you necessarily need it, but I thought that it added a little extra. There is another layer that comes later that will add even more shading to it, but here I'm just going in with just a medium orange over my medium yellow, and I'm just very lightly adding just a little bit of shading into the center of the flowers. This, like I said, not necessarily it does add shading with the stencils later on. But anyway, I also decided to add some pink to my butterflies. And so there is a little bit of a smaller butterfly that I did all pink. And then for the detail stencil for the leaves, I chose two different greens. And then you may notice that all of the blending brushes I'm using are very tiny. There's a lot of detail blending brushes out there. And in fact, I think Pinkfresh Studio also has some, but I don't own them. And so those make it very easy to get into these kind of stamps without worrying that you're going to get ink anywhere else. I have a couple of different sets. I have Altenews detail ones, which I like. I have Pinkfresh Studio, or not, yeah, Pinkfresh. I was right. That I like. I also have some from Hero Arts and from Honeybee Stamps, as well as the bitty blending brushes from the Rabbit Hole Designs. They all work really well. Find one that you like the fit of the best or the size of the best, and then I would just commit to that one because they're all doing the same thing. So here, this is me adding the pink, and then this is also the detail layer for the flowers, and I'm going to go back in with that same orange that I showed you before, and just add that kind of like deeper shading into those flowers. So that's this one. Now for the next one, which I'm not going to show you because we just went through the whole set, like we just went through all the stenciling. So for the next one, I just did the base layers. I didn't do any of the detail layers, and this is just going to cut down on the amount of coloring that I have to do with my markers. But the reason for it is because the shading added with the stencil is very nice. It is, but it is not as dramatic as the shading that I know that I can add with my markers. So I'm going to use the ones that are shaded with the stencils for my background flowers, and I'm going to use these ones that I'm coloring with my markers as the flowers that are more up front and center. And already you're going to be able to see a difference in the dimension of the card because one will have vastly more detail than the other. So that's something that you can do to kind of push some images to the background, is to just add less detail. So here we're just going to go through, I'm going to do the coloring like I, normally would. For the most part, I'm starting with my darkest color and I'm working out to my lightest color, which is actually that base color of ink. The other thing that I did here with my markers that I didn't do with the other ones is they have a couple of cute little flowers that stamp, and they're just like the black dots. For the ones that are on the forefront, I added color to them. And I did that with the same purples that I used for the butterflies, just so that I would have a mix of purple and yellow flowers that would look really nicely together. So yeah, so we talked about the business end of things with the hop and the giveaways. So today is Peanut's actual birthday. And then so last night, we've talked about this many times, that Sunday's my day to sleep in. So for some reason last night, I just could not fall asleep. And then Eric really wasn't feeling well yesterday. So he went to bed a little bit earlier than usual. So when I got into bed, he's sick. So he's a little bit restless and he's snoring and I can't fall asleep. And so needless to say, I did not get a lot of sleep. My game plan was to get up early and so I could get Peanut up so that I could take him to Dunkin' Donuts for a little extra special treat on his birthday. So I was already cutting myself short of sleep. Eric was going to take Caitlin to daycare, but when he got her up, she had something going on with her eye, so he woke me up and was like, hey, I think it's pink eye, and I took one look at her, and I was like, you are correct, sir. So that means she can't go to daycare. So now I'm up out of bed an hour earlier, even than the earlier I intended to be. And so he very generously, because here's the thing with families, and I even have a hard time with it myself, I'm going to be honest. This mom guilt that like my kids are my responsibility and they're nobody else's responsibility, and if they're sick, I should be the person who's taking off work and it's on me and it doesn't really matter what is going on in my life. But that's actually not true. And it's really hard for me to cope with the guilt of, I'm her mom, I'm the one who should be taking care of her, when he is an excellent father. There is no reason why he cannot care for her. So I got up and went downstairs, and I was just having a moment. I mean, I truly was, because I'm a little bit overwhelmed with the stuff going on this week, and I have a couple of days where my days are going to be cut short because I'm volunteering at Nathan's school, and Caitlin has a doctor's appointment, and there's a day where our daycare is going to be closed. And so I already knew that it was going to be a short week for me work-wise. And so I came downstairs, and I was like, this is like the last thing I need right now this week. And Eric was like, I didn't say you were the one who had to do it, Kelly. That's not what I was waking you up to ask your opinion. And so he ended up taking off the day off work. So he has been stay-at-home dadding it all day so that I could work, which I don't really know many men who would do that. And consequently, I am extraordinarily grateful that he takes into consideration that he's not the only person who works for a living, even though I know he has tons of stuff that he needs to be doing too. It's not just me who has a crazy work week. He definitely does as well. So anyway, I just wanted to take a minute to say that there are men out there who are capable, wonderful parents, and that you don't have to feel guilty as a mom, even though you do. I still do. But anyway, that's my own problem to deal with. So here what you see me doing is, these are the ones that we colored with markers, and I'm going in with a fine liner, and I am making their outline just a little bit bolder. And so again, we are going to create more dimension and more separation by having this image, or these images, have more detail than the ones that are stenciled and in the background. So these ones, we are going to I'm going to go through and I'm going to outline the whole thing. I know this seems like it would take a long time, but it really doesn't. And maybe it's just because I'm used to doing it. But if you need an image to kind of be a bit bolder and a bit more standout in the front, try just changing up its line width a little bit. Don't go too crazy. You don't want it to be like a super wide line where you lose all the detail. The other thing that I'm going to do with this version of the colored images is I'm going to go in and I'm going to add in some highlights. Again, another level of detail that's going to bring them forward. So I added some white highlights to some of the flowers. I added some white detailing to a few areas of the butterflies. And now we're going to work on our die cutting. So I pulled out some brushed gold for the bottom of my... What did we decide? Terrarium? No, that's the N, Kelly. Stop it. Terrarium. And then I'm also going to cut out the top piece out of white and out of acetate. So the acetate is going to help us to put an actual divider between our front and our back pieces, which will, I know that it seems crazy because it's a clear piece, but it actually will help your dimension without adding any bulk. So here now everything is die cut out. I am going to go in and add some shading on this white portion. And I'm just going to do that with a couple of light blue markers. There isn't a right or a wrong way to do it. I just pick basically an area around the corners. And I do think I have a tendency to add a bit more shading toward the bottom, where it would be more shadowed. And so I'm just adding some shading. I am leaving a little bit of a white outline on the edge. And then I'm just going to, I started with my darkest color, and now I'm just going to blend this out until eventually they are touching. But you don't want like that, that first color to be just a solid outline around the whole thing. You just want to add kind of little, like maybe 3-4 sections of it, and then blend it out. I am using a B02, a B00, and a B quadruple 0. And so that quadruple 0 is going to lighten up the edge of the B00, but I mean, honestly, it's going to be almost non-existent where it's just white cardstock because it's just such a light color. But it serves its purpose for us, which is the blending. So then this is a separate piece of cardstock. I'm just kind of marking where I need my ink blending to start. And I'm just going to add a very soft kind of blue halo around where it's going to go. This is not going to be pretty, y'all. it's not. It's going to be really ugly because I'm starting on the inside of the frame, so it's going to be super splotchy, but the smooth part will be on the outside of where my die is, and that's the only part you're going to be able to see anyway. So it doesn't matter if the inside looks like trash. We're going to cover it up. So once this is done, then I'm going to use, this is an older cover plate from Pinkfresh, but I love it to death. And this is the dotted scallops. And so I'm just going to use this to create some texture in the background. It's not going to add any bulk. We're still going to be super clean looking with a lot of white space, but we're just going to add a little bit of texture. So for the sentiment, this is also included in the set, but you could use, they have such good sentiments and like just fonts that you could use it from a multitude of other sets. But I'm going to stamp them. After using my anti-static tool, I'm going to stamp them in a white pigment ink on black, and then I will heat emboss them in white. So this day is just the day that keeps on giving. So apparently this is just the day where my husband is going to show me a ton of grace, because that is what is just continuing to happen, and I am very grateful for it because it's a day. So in the midst of all of this, me trying to get, now Caitlin, this poor baby, she just always has something going on. Now she's got the pink eye. And thankfully we had antibiotics left over from the last time she had it. We, in addition, did call her pediatrician to double check if we needed to bring her in, and they said no. And then they just called us in more drops, which was super nice of them. She does have an appointment later on today. Let's talk about what I'm doing here. So here I have everything arranged, and there are some that are underneath, which are the stenciled pieces, and then some that are on top, which are the pieces that we colored with markers. And so I am going to start building my card by attaching my sentiment. Nothing else is glued down. So I am going to actually pick up all of these little leaves and flowers by gluing my sentiment to them and helping to hold them together that way so that I can adhere them as one piece. Alternatively, you could also use press and seal to pick them all up so that they didn't move. And then, like I said, I'll just pick them up as one piece. So in addition to her not being able to go to daycare, him then taking off of work and giving me the entirety of my full work day, which part of it I had to use to take a nap because I got 2 hours and 15 minutes of sleep last night. Here for these butterflies, I am adhering these to the acetate, and then these will later serve as my points to attach the acetate so that you can't see my adhesive behind them. So this voiceover, this video, in my old laptop, it would not acknowledge my microphone. I tried all different kinds of ways, restarting, it just would not acknowledge it. So then I got out my new laptop in the hopes that it would acknowledge my microphone, which it did. But now I'm only able to record, I have no idea what is happening, like 4 minutes of voiceover at a time. And normally my workday is done at 5, and my wonderful husband has been with our daughter, who is a toddler, so is no treat at this stage in life, all day long. And I had like 10 minutes of voiceover left to do, and all of a sudden it just stopped working. The screen, not the entirety of the computer screen, but the screen for the editing software just completely froze. So here, these are just the stenciled pieces that were adhering down into the background. And you'll notice I did adhere them slightly up higher to fill in more of my terrarium. And I forgot about the butterfly, so that was my bad. So here, this is the acetate piece. So this is how it will lay on top. And it's so hard to see when you're looking at it directly. But when you have the real life card in your hand, you can definitely see the different layers and how parts of it look like they're under the glass because the light catches that acetate and like the shine kind of blocks off portions of those images. Here, I was going to glue down my flowers, and then I realized I actually needed to put my base on first. So I'm gluing my base to my acetate, and then I will put the flowers on top of that, and then I will build in the rest of the card. So anyway, in the middle of this thing, it just stopped working. So I saved what I had in the hopes that restarting it would work, but I was out of time. Like my work day was over. And So I went downstairs and my husband noticed that I was pretty, like, visibly upset. And he's like, what's going on? So I tell him, and he was like, hey, listen, like, why don't you go upstairs and try to, just knock it out. So not only did he give me the entirety of his work day so that I could have a work day, he has given me like overtime, really, so that I can try to get this done, because I have another video going up tomorrow. So if this video doesn't go up today, then it backs up the whole week. Like, they all affect each other. So yeah, so here I am, just extraordinarily grateful right now that my husband is very understanding and empathetic. So yeah, so here, I put the adhesive only on the places that are going to be covered up. So only behind the butterflies, only behind the flowers. And this is more than enough to make sure that it is secure and is not going to come up, and you still will not see any of the adhesive. So now at this point, it's just laying on the card, and it just seemed like it needed a little something. And so I took some of these extra pieces. Remember how I told you I was such a big fan of the fact that it cut them all out? Well, because of that, I had kind of extra pieces parts. And so in the bottom right-hand corner and in the top left-hand corner, I'm just tucking some pieces behind, and it's really helping give the card some balance, which I am a big fan of. Like, I just don't want it to be just like plain and blah. So even though that doesn't make any sense, it's pretty. And that's really what we're here for. That's really what I'm here for anyway. So once I got all of those kind of tucked behind, then I can go ahead and lift up the terrarium and adhere that into its final place. And it's still going to look balanced and grounded and all of those things. The last thing, the last two things that I did is to add a little bit of an accent and just kind of a little bit of shimmer, is I used some light green gems to fill that in. You could also use these if you have small ones. You could use them as berries along your greenery to add a lot more shine, or a different color, or represent, another color if you felt like you were missing one. But I just went with the green just to add some shine and accent the sentiment. And then I'm also going to add some clear shimmer to the butterflies and flowers that are on the outside, not the underneath, which is the last and final way we can create different dimension without any bulk, is by, again, just adding that one more detail, which in this case is the glitter, to set them apart from the pieces that are behind. And then that is the whole card. So today, I am thankful for you for sticking with me through this long video, and I'm extraordinarily thankful for my husband for helping me out so that I could have a productive work day, even though technology tried to make sure I didn't. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will be back tomorrow with another video. I will see you then. Bye.